Hey, everybody. I pray that everybody is doing well. Happy Mother's Day out there to everyone. I pray that the day is a great day, regardless of what you do, of what you receive. Know that this is the day that the Lord has made, and we have reasons to rejoice and to be glad in it. It's a beautiful day here in South Florida. We thank you for joining us. Grab your devices, text someone, invite someone to become a part of this conversation on as we chatted up after the sermon. As you see, Tears of a Mother is a sermon that the Lord led me to preach today. I really want to deal with a lot about grief. And so grab your devices, share this feed on website, share this feed on our app, share this feed on our social media platforms and your social media platforms, or text someone and invite them to come be a part. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Mother's Day to everyone. And I just shared the link to this, and I hope that you'll do the same. And I hope that you are joining us. Come on in with some questions and some comments, and let's chat it up on this Mother's Day 2021. And I didn't preach today. You did that on purpose, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man.
Yeah, we talked about so the other day, talking about I don't preach for the last 19 years on Mother's Day.
I don't think I said that because that wouldn't be accurate, but I do preach a lot on Mother's Day.
About
and
17,
it's
about 17 and 19, 17 and 19. So.
It's challenging. Well, I'm grateful to my pastor for putting me up to preach today. Although every time he put me up, I did preach. I tried to preach.
You did?
I try to do it I try to be a viable staff minister when necessary. Do what my pastor tells me to do.
Y'all saw that lightweight shade. Okay, all right.
Why was it shade?
Just jokes.
Maybe I need to give you the definition of shade.
Just jokes. No. Shade for me is shade for me. Shade for you is shade for you. So.
We got personal definitions.
Yeah, we do. Good morning, everybody.
That's good to know.
Thank y'all for joining us.
That's good to know.
It's Mother's Day. Reverend Maria's not gonna cook today. And so I'm going to order Cracker Barrel as soon as it's over. I'm going to pick up Cracker Barrel. I don't have to get out of the car. They can bring it to the car. And so let's chat it up seriously, though. I was drawn to this passage because I believe a lot of people, mothers who've gone home to be with the Lord or who've had difficult relationships with their mothers. I think to me this passage speaks to that. I really wanted to go and show a viewpoint of a mother who's in a challenging situation and how Jesus transforms that situation. And so I really wanted to speak to that. Really want to deal with grief. I know in these 20 plus years I've been pastoring, I've met countless members who hate Mother's Day, and I use the word hate intentionally. They didn't want to go to church. Even the week leading up to Mother's Day was just rough for them. The mothers had gone home to be with the Lord. So I really wanted to kind of pick a passage, particularly in the midst of this pandemic, that I felt that would minister to them. And so I pray it blesses you. So we want to take your questions on the sermon or just faith matters in general as we chat it up here. Thank people on YouTube, thank people on the website, thank the people on Facebook for joining us.
You know what I like about this passage?
What's that?
This passage shows Jesus doing what Jesus always does, which is bringing new life into
dead situation. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry, I cut you off. Okay.
No, go ahead. I'm done.
I'm finished.
That's it.
I'm finished.
Bringing new life, and that means, and this is what's so powerful for the preaching. Even on a special day, it's always the Lord's Day. So we preach Christ and Christ crucified, and that means a word like this can be a blessing to anyone, and in particular to those you've already mentioned, but also to anyone, as you alluded in your sermon, to all of us are going through something, and we all go through different types of deaths, and Jesus is there.
And you know, the grief, I made a point in the sermon that don't allow anybody to put you on their grief timetable. Everyone grieves differently, and we've got to recognize that and acknowledge that, understand that, and understand that we can't fix everything. And sometimes it's just there for us to give a word of, hey, just checking on you. You know, and I'm going to do that too. I know I started doing it yesterday, and I'll continue to do that today. So I know particular members or people who were members I pastored in the past who I know struggle on this day. Just checking on you, see if you're doing all right today. And because it's a rough day, particularly when you have so much celebration around and you don't feel like celebrating. Restaurants packed, balloons, cars, flowers, all of that other good stuff, candy, gifts. Ain't no socks being given today, but all right. So yeah, so we need some questions, y'all. So let's chat it up. Y'all not asking questions today. I guess y'all getting ready for the Mother's Day celebration this afternoon. You got any pre-live questions, Rick?
You know, I just want to say something because I have been on this Mother's Day journey for a while now. My mother passed in '96, and it is always a time. It can be a challenging time, and each year it has I get a different view of how challenging it is. But also, when I don't let my feelings be the only thing that I engage, the only thing that I touch, that I touch on, if my feelings aren't the only thing, then I can look back and I can see also that each year I have a different kind of blessing, a different kind of way of engaging God, a different kind of way of seeing the journey of grief playing out. If we keep doing it the same way every year, then we can limit ourselves to the same experience every year. But if we allow ourselves to look at it a little differently, to open ourselves up to God a little differently, to change our routine. If my routine is to be in the bed every Mother's Day, I might want to change my routine because then I might be able to experience something different. And it doesn't dishonor my mother. It doesn't dishonor the fact that I'm grieving, but it will help me allow something new into that experience so that I'm not staying in that same place year after year after year. We don't have to memorialize the grief itself. You know what I mean? We don't have to make the grief. I'm not dishonoring my loved one or whatever the circumstance or situation is. I'm not dishonoring the pain that I felt if I allow myself to do something different, to be open to something different instead of marking it the same way year after year after year.
Let me ask you this question. Because you've experienced so much loss and your mother's passed in 1996, was Mother's Day different when you had children?
It was different because I had children, very much so. But it did not. It did not do anything to. It wasn't an either or.
Okay.
Having children did not make my grief and the challenge of the absence of my mother any different. It didn't replace anything that my mother, because my children don't, and Joey has her ears, but they don't replace her. You know what I mean? So there's a continuum of love. I can look at my children and be grateful and I can celebrate on Mother's Day some of the things that my mother introduced me to, or glimpses of motherhood that I shared with her as her child. I can see that in my relationship with my children. I can see how I reflect her in my relationship with my children. But in terms of the grief, it's not like there was a substitutionary thing going on where now I have children. It doesn't hit the same. No, and in fact, I don't know, there may be others who want to comment on this, but it may open up something different, a whole new aspect of the grief, because there is a part of me that is like, man, I wish she could hold them. I wish they could see her face. I know that she would be just ridiculous with these boys.
Spending all her money, huh?
She would just be ridiculous. You would be like, come get your mom, because it would be really, really bad. So.
Be like, okay. Be like, your mama coming to town? All right, I'm leaving town. All right, your mama coming to town? I'm leaving town.
She wouldn't let you do that, though.
Because your mama doing the most over here.
And if you had done it one time, you would never do it again. Not with Joyce. Not with Joyce. No,
my Lord, listen. To get it from a mama. All right, y'all, let's take some questions. Drop some questions.
Kinder, gentler version.
I don't know about that.
Yes,
I don't know. I ain't never met your
mama. Anybody who know my mother, you know I'm the kinder, gentler version, because Joyce was something else.
My Lord, listen. All right, we want y'all to drop some questions here. We got a few more moments here to chat it up. We're talking sermon chat. We're not just talking about this sermon, but just faith matters in general. Whatever you want to share, questions, comments. We're really talking about grief today, because I think though it may be it is Mother's Day, but to me you cannot disconnect the grief on this day, because whether it's a grandmother, whether it's an aunt, whether it's a godmother, whether it's somebody who adopted you and raised you, those connections of that person who's no longer here, really, that's a challenging, and everybody grieves differently.
Yeah,
when my grandmother passed, my cousins and I, we all grieved differently. For me, I'm not a person who's going to the graveyard. That's just not me. I've never been back in my grandmother's house before the house was sold. I never been back in the house, and it wasn't anything eerie that I didn't want to go back. I just hadn't. And so I have other memories that I cherish, that I'll never forget. First time I took Red Maria to meet my grandmother. My grandmother was straight, no chaser. And she was like, are you going to be in this family or what? Not, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. You going to be in this family or what? And so
she would have gotten along with my mother.
My Lord, listen.
She can be straight like that.
So I think we've got to really talk about the grief, and understand that it's okay. And I made this point in the sermon that it's okay to cry, regardless of how long it's been since that loved one has passed. It's okay to cry, regardless of how long it's been since that person has passed. I'm going to say it one more time for the people all the way upstairs so they can hear you. It's okay to cry, regardless of how long it's been since that person has passed. And don't let anybody put you on a cookie cutter timetable for grief. Okay?
I love how in your sermon you talked about the youth and the children who are having a hard time right now because of the pandemic. We got some people like that in our household, and I want us to really be intentional with our children, to hear them out, to love on them, to affirm them, to let them lament. They need to lament too. They need to be able to grieve this so unusual circumstance. I think that when we look back on it, we'll see that our children have been pretty resilient given everything. I have a good friend of mine. We've been talking about how we don't know what would happen if this had happened when we were children. Because it wouldn't have been, without the technology and stuff, we don't know what would have happened. It wouldn't have been enough mimeograph papers.
Cable just got on the scene. We'd have been looking at doggone encyclopedias.
It wouldn't have been enough mimeograph papers to...
smell it. Remember you just get that paper, you just smell it ink. Clear up your sinuses. I want to copy the paper. Get that sinus clean up. Somebody don't. Y'all, I'm quite sure. I'm sorry, y'all. We over somebody's head because y'all too young to understand mimeograph paper and all that other stuff. The purple ink or the blue ink, whatever it was. So yeah. So.
Yes.
I like to make you laugh. All right, so I also want to also consider for us to think about, and I made this point in the sermon, are we going to be okay with staying in dead situations?
That's what I was talking about. Yeah, the same thing every year, doing the same thing every year. Yeah.
It's easy to stay in dead situations. hard part about it is being obedient and not only being obedient to God, but doing what God says. Because it's one thing to hear what God says, but it's another thing to do what God says. That's the hard, challenging part. So we've got to really wrestle with that. That some people are just okay with not being okay and don't want to move with being okay.
Yeah, in the narrative of that text, what if, and it was her custom, but what if she said, you know what, this death of my son is my death? That came to me because without her husband, without a son, she could have been like, this is the death of me too.
Mm-hmm.
And what if she just stayed in her house and didn't go through the processes of the funeral and all of that?
Mm-hmm.
If she hadn't kept moving, she would not have been in a place to encounter the Lord, to do what the Lord did in her life. Mm-hmm. And we're talking now, of course, someone who interacted with the the Savior in flesh and mm-hmm. walking among the earth, but we have the same situations. If we don't keep moving, if we don't keep stepping out of our comfort zone, if we don't keep moving even in the midst of our pain, mm-hmm. we can hinder what the Lord will do for us because we aren't putting ourselves in the flow of his will, the flow of his movement. I've said this before on Sermon Chat, when my mother passed, my Aunt Margie would check in on me regularly. And she had a checklist. Did you get up today? Did you, because I worked from home way back before anybody was working from home. I was working from home. Did you get up today? Did you shower? Did you comb your hair? Did you brush your teeth? She wanted to make sure that I was doing things and not getting stuck. And that's important. And it may not feel like that's some huge spiritual thing that we're doing, but it absolutely is important to keep on moving and to keep on doing so that we can open ourselves up to not staying in that dead situation.
Yeah, one of my devotionals I was reading last week said something, and I made sure I jotted it down because I thought it was like, ooh, this was great. That faith in God is a duet. It's not a solo.
Absolutely.
And a duet is it's a duet. It's not just
two.
Yeah, it's
me and him.
Being with it, rock with it, lean with it, rock with it. We going in the same direction and all that other stuff. So do it. Yeah, there you go. Let's do the rock.
Wait.
Mm-hmm. 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 All right. So we want to thank y'all. It's Mother's Day. We're gonna cut this short because we're gonna let the tech team get today Mother's Day festivities, and the rest of everyone. We want to thank you all. Join us after the 10 a.m. service, and we're gonna cut that short because where Maria's going on her Mother's Day trip, where she's gonna go and hang out at the beach for a couple of days. And I am telling the kids, do not call unless the house burning down. Don't call. I'm not calling.
And then call 911. Don't call me. Call 911.
And we just want to let you know some of your stuff going. We just let you know some of your stuff going.
Don't call me if the house is burned down. Call.
All right, we're gonna call Tyrone. And so, all right. So, thank y'all for joining us, and we're excited again for Sunday in this month after the 10 a.m. service. It is Pentecost Sunday, so we're asking everybody to wear red. We're gonna have our red shirts on, and Bishop Vaxide is gonna be joining us in the sermon chat after the 10 a.m. service. She's preaching for us all day. And she's going to join us after the 10 a.m. service and in sermon chat. And so we're excited about that. So let's, again, happy Mother's Day to everyone. Everybody have a great day. I want to thank you, tech team. And Tuesday night Bible study. We continue on this series on prayer. I continue to lead the prayer call for this month of May. This week, we're going to be praying prayers of thanksgiving. Last week we talked about prayers of confession. This week we're going to talk about prayers of thanksgiving on the prayer line, starting at 6:27, praying promptly at 6:30. And as y'all know, I don't tarry long for Jesus because my prayer does not have to be eternal, to be everlasting. Amen. All right, everybody have a great day.
God bless you.
God bless.